Can they hear me? They hear me live out there. Next beat. That ain't the beat I want to do.
Those was wood
another
beats
beat.
right
Another
there.
beat. Nope. Give me another beat. Give me another beat. Nope. That's not it. That's the beat. Turn it up.
Oh, word.
Turn it up. I gotta hear it a little louder. Can you make it louder than my headphones? Turn me up in my headphones. I'm still stuck in the 80s/90s. Lottos, kangaroo boots, natty ghosts, feelers, jumpsuits and troops, Junos, color Levi's, Bugs Bunny sweaters with the rhinestone ring on it. Fighting and making up the next day. Nobody getting shot. Working a hustling to get it, a get got. We had love for the streets, our family, our foes, our friends. Respect for the elderly. Pager/payphone, sneaking in the Adams Theater. Watching Crush grooving tougher than leather. Hopping gates out the college port to bank out, cause you don't wanna get caught at mom's crib or at Von's crib. Eating funny dinner with the fam. Church every Sunday, 8 o'clock a.m. And even if I fell asleep in the back row or played sick, no matter what, man, I still had to go. 80s, baby. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. 80s.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to XCast episode 104 here on theempiremedia.com. I am Adam Hernandez tonight. I am actually hosting tonight for Josh, who is not in, but with me is my regular co-host over on the Majors Live, and that is Dorf. Dorf, how you doing tonight, man?
So you gotta find the right camera. You gotta find the right camera there for me.
Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
doing all right. So yeah, I'm pinch hitting for Josh here tonight, and we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
This isn't my first appearance on the XCast. However, this is first time in the let's call it the number 2 chair.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, like I am, I'm not used to hosting usually Empire Media shows. I'm always used to doing the.
You're used to producing and pitching in, not running the show.
Exactly. Like I'm a little off right now to tell you the truth. Like I almost said the Majors when we first started, and yeah. So, anyways, tonight we've got Aaron Eggemeyer calling in, and will be joining us again tonight. He was a guest of ours a couple of weeks ago when we recapped the first Democratic debates in Miami. We had the second round of Democratic debates take place just this past week in Detroit, and I believe he's actually trying to call in now, but for some reason that here we go. Aaron's in right now. Aaron, you there? Aaron?
Gentlemen.
Hey. How you doing, man?
I'm lovely. I'm just kind of sad I'm sitting here. I got my glass of scotch, ready to talk debates, and there's no Josh.
I know. We are going to get into a little bit of what happened. The unfortunate stuff that happened this past weekend in El Paso and Dayton. And I know there's going to be a gun debate that's gonna break out over it. And Josh is what would be the fair thing to say? The resident Second Amendment
Absolutist.
Absolutist?
I think Josh would literally have the argument with you, if possible, that it should be every citizen's right to own a nuke.
Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. That's the best part is Josh is, if the government can own a F-16, so should I.
Believe it or not, it's actually legal to own a fully working and functional tank. Right?
Okay, well, we'll get to that.
I mean, the DOD's got tons of them just sitting in Nevada. Go buy one, man, please.
Well, we'll get to that in just a little bit. Maybe not so much tanks, but we will, unfortunately, be talking about what happened this past weekend and how that kind of pertains to, obviously, the gun debate in this country, mental illness, and white supremacy as well. But first, like I said, we originally were having Aaron on tonight, which we're still going to do because... that, like I said, that was the original plan, which is to kind of talk about the debates from this past week and, talk talk about, kind of go over each candidate. What was the strong suits? What were kind of like the low points? And go from there. But like I said, unfortunately,
I think this is better because we get to see Dorf's side of the debate.
Yes, we do. We get
Maybe he didn't watch all of them, but I'm sure he caught up on a little bit of the highlights. And I
actually watched this round entirely. I didn't watch round one. I didn't watch any of round one. I have watched.
I'm one of the few people
who thought
I was only CNN actually did a lot better job. Than MSNBC did.
I thought these debates were a lot better too than the first round of debates. I thought, well, namely because I thought the candidate that I like, Bernie Sanders, I thought he did a much better job. Not that I thought he did a bad job the first time around. I thought he was much more lively in this debate, much more front and center than the first debates.
They gave him a lot more leeway, I feel like.
Yes, they did. And I guess we might as well just jump into it right now into night one, which...
Hey, it's your show, man. I mean, if you want to go what happened over the weekend, we can do that right now. Or
we'll get to that.
I didn't mean to hijack you.
No, not at all. We'll go ahead and we'll get to the debates right now. We'll start. I mean, we'll just kick off with night one, which
and the night on a depressing note. Okay.
Yes. But we had obviously the two biggest progressive quote unquote candidates in night one with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and it certainly seemed like the networks, the leading up to the debates, the moderators were trying to get them to go at it, to try to strike a chord and maybe highlight the differences in their own policies. That's not something that they did. Instead, what they did is they ended up tag teaming the rest of the candidates on stage that night, all of the the centrist candidates, and were defending their own positions from there. I know Bernie Delaney right off the bat started getting into it with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren regarding Medicare for all. And
I wrote the law.
Well, that was against Tim Ryan. That wasn't against.
You're right. Yeah.
That wasn't against Delaney. But Tim Ryan was in there as well, trying to talk about how Medicare for all wouldn't work. And let's start off with the two progressive candidates, or the two biggest progressive candidates that night, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Like I was saying, they really did kind of team together that night and to try to stave off some of the centrist Democrats that were coming their way. And Aaron, since you're the guest tonight, we'll go ahead and start it off with you. What were your impressions with how they handled themselves, and do you think that they made a good case? Because Medicare for all was definitely the biggest topic of the night for last week's Democratic debates. How did you think they handled themselves, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders?
No, absolutely, yeah. I thought Sanders and Warren had a good night, and obviously on that first night they were going to be the targets. They were going to be the ones that everyone was kind of going to be going against and trying to play off of, and that's one of the things where I think the moderators really showed kind of a bit of, I wouldn't say bias, but just a bit of a agenda, and it was a little depressing in that regard, just because they definitely were trying to get Warren and Sanders to really go against each other, and
yeah,
I don't know if they planned it beforehand, but Sanders and Warren have talked countless times about how they are really good friends in the Senate, and they constantly are together and trying to work things together. And so whether or not it was planned, if it was, masterstroke. Stay together until you get to a three-person debate. If it's the two of them and someone else in a three-person debate for the primary, wait until then to go after each other. As for the Medicare for all thing, I thought overall they defended it pretty well, but I noticed the one thing everyone kind of kept hammering him on was and, coincidentally it was in Detroit, was forcing people out of union healthcare plans.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely, and you would think that would be
that's the weakness that they need to address.
No, I mean, I can agree. I can agree that that's something that they're definitely going to need to address more so going forward. And it seemed like the right time for something like that to come out would be in Detroit, in the Motor City, obviously, where the auto workers unions are very prevalent. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not something that's going to be ironed out in one debate when you have, how many other candidates, 10 other candidates on stage trying to...
Well, and that's the worst thing, is it can't be ironed out in a debate.
That's
ironed out in, policy and law. I mean, in the written letter of the law, and, no one wants to hear that, too. I mean, that was kind of almost the worst part of that whole first hour of that debate, was they kept trying to iron out, well, are you going to kick people off of it? Are you going to let people have their health care? Are you going to let people buy into new health care? It was, as much as the Democrats won on health care last year, that's just too deep into it where people don't care that much. The average voter doesn't really care about that much.
Well, Dorf, what your impressions? Because you did watch it, and you are on, you are right of center. You are the right of center guy tonight. Yeah. So what were you? What were your impressions? What were your impressions of at least the to start off with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren?
Sure. I think that quite frankly, Elizabeth Warren may be the most academically smart of the group. Mm-hmm. However, once the field gets narrowed down and there's more people that will be focusing on her, she is terrible at live debate, terrible at live speaking off the cuff. I haven't taken in enough of her, planned speeches or stuff with teleprompters and stuff like that to pick stuff in or to have an informed opinion on it. But boy, does she look panicked when she doesn't have a ready to go soundbite ready. And I understand that's playing the game, in live debate where you have 45 seconds to be nuanced about policy. But you have to forget, especially when talking about such large, and ultimately I think, this is night 2 or whatever, but Kamala Harris, I think Joe Biden said something about, in 10 years, this will cost $3 trillion. I would like a little bit more nuanced debate about a $3 trillion plan over 10 years than a 45-second soundbite. This format's not conducive to that, but at the same time, if you aren't able to communicate more effectively and spend more time saying no, that's not true, I just don't know that people like me that look a little bit past the surface then, Senator so-and-so wants healthcare for everybody. That sounds awesome. And actually, wants to look at the nuance of how it's done, what needs to change about, government spending structure. If that's something we agree as a nation is something we should pursue, I would like to at least know how you plan on doing that. And quite honestly, the whole falling back, I know Bernie did this a lot of, well, you're just giving into a Republican talking point. It's no, Bernie, that's what people who aren't, drinking your Kool-Aid are really thinking. You need to be able to answer those questions. You can't just dodge it by saying, but my Republicans. So that'll especially, that isn't good now. That doesn't sell me on even wanting to listen to him further now. But at the same time, in the general, that's going to get him killed.
Aaron,
on one thing, I love what you said about Warren. I think you're absolutely right on that, Dorf. She's not great in debates. So far, I would say. Just because...
Well, she never has been either. This isn't new.
Exactly. Well, she's never had to do one, really, either. But
well, yeah,
she's great in a town hall where, again, she can go back to her professor roots, and she can just actually tell people.
Town hall is lecturing. Yep. Town halls are lecturing.
I agree with you on that, absolutely.
It isn't verbal judo.
And the last point, what was the last point you made right before You finished up.
The whole idea that legitimate questions about how things will get done, or matters of policy cannot.
It was on the general election.
That's part of this too. Not refusing to even acknowledge legitimate criticism and hand waving it away with that's just a Republican talking point. That turns off the center who thinks about this stuff a little bit more, and will get you slaughtered in the general. So needing to be able to have an answer for that is important.
It's also, though, in the general, is it going to get any of the Democrats slaughtered on those healthcare points? Because
no, at the same time,
Trump, I honestly don't think Trump will show up for a debate personally. But if he does, and the question is on healthcare, what counterpoint is he going to have personally? I know the Republican or the right counterpoint to it, but is Trump going to be able to actually counterpoint that live on a debate stage?
Trump never
that was my only point
if you look back at 2016 though, he never answered any legitimate policy point by Hillary Clinton either. He just reverted back to name calling crooked Hillary, got people to laugh. Here's an ultimate truth about in individual psychology. People don't remember what you say to them; they remember how you make them feel. So if people, if Donald Trump can make them laugh at, I don't know, Crazy Bernie, or I don't know, Pocahontas or whatever, or whoever.
Mad Magazine Pete, whatever. Sure.
Yeah.
But again, though, that also is kind of. Don't you think people have? But don't you think people have also kind of just gotten almost jet lagged over the past 4 years of what we've had with Trump? And that will maybe stick a little bit?
Twitter has. John Q. Public hasn't.
Yeah, but I mean, that's Twitter. I'm of the belief everyone I talk to is just tired. The whole touting the economy, yes, the economy's stupid, all that. Everyone's just tired of this nonsense constantly. And it was funny, 2016 against Hillary, but I think now it's different going now because people aren't going to be amused by this anymore. People are sick and just tired of this. Just to even bring it back to this weekend almost. We can't rely on him for anything like this where it's a serious and we need to have a conversation, and this is shit that needs to be talked about. And I think people are just going to not be as amused by him during any type of debate, much less the general election with if he goes with his 2016 style.
Well,
I just don't think people are going to.
I think that.
Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say. Let's. I'm going to kind of bring it back to the debate here, and okay. I think you guys make some good points as far as what you're saying, Dorf. Trying to get that independent, trying to get them on board, and Aaron, and what you're saying about kind of making that impression when it comes to actually a general election debate, and whether or not Trump is actually going to show up. I don't know if he will or won't. I'm sure if he doesn't, he'll spin it some way that his base will. That his base will eat up, and he'll be fine with the base. How he does with independence at that point. As it stands right now, he's not going to. He's not
honestly, guys. He's not. He's got the base locked up already.
Oh, sure.
And
that's what I was going to say. Hold on, Dorf. That's what I was going to say. He does have his base locked up, but is not showing up to a debate going to win over independence? I don't know if that's going to be the case this time, because you have a sample size. You have an adequate enough sample size of Trump's governing style to go ahead and make a more educated vote from there.
Adam, here's a fundamental mistake here. You're thinking that the majority of the U.S. electorate votes rationally, and that's just not the case. Ultimately, what attracts people to political candidates.
We'll have to see if that's going to be the case.
Well, but no, and that was kind of my point. Is I think at this point, people are done being rational, and they're just sick of this shit. Personally, that's what I think.
I think the people who are sick of it were never going to vote for Donald anyway.
I hope you're right, Aaron. I really do. But the only way we're going to find out is once November rolls around next year. So it's something that people can debate about on and on and on again. But
hey, we've got another 15, 16 months of this stuff.
But as far as
I feel like I'm looking at 22 draft picks for the NHL back then.
As far as one thing though that really kind of bugged me about the whole Bernie and Elizabeth Warren thing, as it pertains to the media, Bernie Sanders did come out after the fact and say, "Hey, we're not going to." Elizabeth Warren and I aren't going to attack each other. It's not something that's going to be done. If you want to differentiate our policy, then you have to sit here and listen to us talk about it, and then basically make your decision from there.
That may be a smart tactical decision. Here's the problem, though. Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, when closely examined, are almost compare resumes. You could and voting records, you could barely tell them apart. The problem is they're eating up each other's support. If they want to make a true run at dethroning Joe Biden, one of them needs to bail, and now. That'll not only get the financial support and the stereotypical voter share that they're splitting behind one person. The only problem is neither will do that because they're both. There is no next year for these guys. They're both old.
I don't buy that they need to bail right now. One of them does.
Honestly,
It's still incredibly too early.
Maybe after the first round of primaries, they need to bail right away.
Go ahead, Aaron.
And the next debate is going to be what's important. I think it's going to be down to I feel maybe 7. So I hope it goes.
That's all that currently qualify. I believe that's all that currently qualify by current debate rules.
And I don't think it'll get wider than that, honestly. And great, I'm happy for that. But I mean, the one thing is, Biden, he needs to just stop going to these. Personally, I don't know why he's showing up. The media hit he would take by just not showing up to these debates would be way less than kind of the damage he's doing to himself, honestly.
Oh, yeah, all he does is every time he shows up, I mean, especially with that gaffe at the end with the go to Joe 3.
Oh, God, yeah. 30330. Yeah, oh, my goodness.
Then you could just hear his campaign staffers going, oh, shit.
And that's not the first time they did that during that debate either.
Yeah, sprinting to the computer to buy that domain before somebody else did. And you see a bunch of trolls just went and bought similar iterations of it, and some of them went to Pete Buttigieg's site and just a bunch of other goofy stuff. So all he does is old and feeble and ultimately politics is about displaying power, whether real, fake, or putting on a good act. Joe Biden.
Dorf, I want to ask, what do you think was the moment of those 2 nights? By whatever candidate you believe, what was the one moment that you that caught your attention immediately?
It's not necessarily what happened on the stage. I mean, it was part of what happened on stage. It was more the Tulsi Gabbard, going after.
Hold on. Hold that thought.
That was big.
Yeah, hold that thought though, because I do want to get into that, and I think that was incredibly. I thought that was incredibly important considering what Kamala Harris got away with, the first round of debates in Miami. But that
was a huge knockback.
Yeah, one of the big moments though of the night. Of the first night, though, was the line that Elizabeth Warren got on John Delaney when she basically said that, why are some of you Democrats running on the platform of what you can't do instead of what you can do? And I thought that was
could be done. I agree with you. Yeah, that was a great line.
I thought that there was a very profound and
that's a nice line wasted on the wrong person. Because congratulations, you dunked on somebody who's polling at 0%.
Okay, but it
You
doesn't matter.
you dunked on your kid brother.
No, but
congratulations.
Dorf. No, that doesn't matter though, because it wasn't just directed at John Delaney. That was a shot
I was
across.
directed at every centrist.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, and here's the deal: if she could have saved that for heaven forbid she ever gets to a general election, because
She still can though.
Yeah, absolutely, she can.
The only problem is you've given everybody else a chance to have an answer ready. And you
That's fair, but I mean, the line itself is more. Why are you running for president on what you can't do versus doing it and running for something that can be better for us?
I think at the same time.
I mean, that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I think at the same time too, Dorf. That's something that candidates are still going to have to address themselves going forward now. Whether you're Beto O'Rourke, Amy Klobuchar, Delaney, who's going to be out of it here pretty soon anyway. Steve Bullock.
That line is every candidate now has to answer that question to the media when they ask us.
Yeah, and I thought it was a brilliant question to ask.
Instead of being able to land a knockout blow on a serious contender, or being able to land a heavy uppercut in a general debate, you wasted that on John Delaney.
I think it depends. It depends.
Fair point.
It depends on how you word it, though. If you sit there and word it without acknowledging that you've asked it before, if Elizabeth Warren is in a general, or if she's down if she's down to two different candidates in the Democratic primaries, she could be sitting up there on a debate stage and be like, hey, you know what? I asked this question to John Delaney back in Detroit in July, and he couldn't come up with an answer, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it to you. If you are a Democrat, if you're a Democrat...
That's a Joe Biden question.
Absolutely, and it's something that she can directly ask Joe Biden and word it similar to like I just said, and it's still good. It's still fresh. And it's something that people are going to want to hear the answer to if you're somebody like Joe Biden, who is a centrist and who definitely could be one of those guys running on what you can't do rather than what you can do. So,
well, here's the thing you risk with that. There's the concept in political science of the mommy and daddy problem. When the country is feeling down,
they want a mommy for
they want some mommy,
exactly,
for tough love. The easy answer is you give if you're a Republican to that question, you give the daddy answer of congratulations, and we all want sunshine, lollipops and rainbows, but when you actually want someone to make a tough decision, look at me, look what we've done the last 4 years. That's such an easy question now that if you could have saved that, and you may have not had that answer ready, God, that could have been such a heavy blow. But it's nice line, tactical error on when you used it.
Okay, well, if you sit there and you use it on somebody like Donald Trump, I'm pretty sure that it's not something that he's going to be thinking about.
He would be hoping he could come up with one of those lines that he did with Hillary Clinton of, something with it.
I'd put you in jail.
The temperament of, because you'd be in jail or something like that. He would need some sort of, below the belt, debatably dirty, nonsense answer like that to be able to counterpunch that. And congratulations, you gave him probably a year to prep that answer.
All right, let's go ahead and move.
Dorf, that's why I actually agree. Can I give my favorite line of the night?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mine was, and I know, Adam, you saw it, it was Pete Buttigieg's. It was, and I'll quote it verbatim here, time to stop worrying about what the Republicans will say. If we embrace a far-left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's stand up for the right policy, go out there and defend it. And that, honestly, was just poignant and true, because that's what the Republicans and Trump will say, no matter who is the actual nominee. They're going to say he's a socialist, no matter what it is. If it's Biden saying, we'll reform Obamacare, or if it's Sanders saying, we'll reform the whole thing and everything's going to change. Everyone gets healthcare. We'll figure it out. They're going to say the Democrats are socialists.
That's a very smart point, and that was kind of a similar. You call it 180-degree mirror of that you could argue has been the election strategy that got Donald Trump there. Well, Democrats are going to call us heartless dickbags, so we might as well be good at it. If we're going to do that, we might as well embrace it and go full in and not apologize.
When it comes to Donald Trump, that's pretty accurate.
If they're going to call you, everything under the sun, you might as well not. I don't want to call it being a coward, but I don't have anything better right now. But you might as well lean in and take advantage of the fact that everybody.
And that was one of Hillary's faults, was saying they're deplorable, and Trump owned that. That was they fucking rallied around it. It was dumb, but I mean, with Donald Trump, is it really that inaccurate of an actual definition?
No.
No.
No, it's not.
But at the same time, it gets back to my point about what people desire out of their political leaders. They want people who project power. Ultimately, it's a deep psychological thing. And a mealy-mouthed academic in Elizabeth Warren, or crazy Grandpa Bernie or creepy Uncle Joe doesn't exactly exude power. And
I absolutely get what you're saying.
That'll help. That lack of power.
Breaks my heart.
Argue and ultimately, why do you think that the most talented and brightest people in the United States have no interest in getting into public service? It's because it ain't fucking worth it to them.
All right.
And so you get stuck with the people who are, not exactly the cream of the crop or necessarily the bottom of the barrel either, because you still have to be politically competent. But at the same time, you get slime bags like Kamala Harris in there too.
Well, let's hold on a second.
Don't even hide
that's a little harsh.
Let's. I mean, we'll get to Kamala Harris here in
I don't
just a
disagree
little
with
bit.
you at all there. North at all, but
Aaron,
that's what hurts. I think that would really break our founding fathers' hearts.
Aaron, you are a Pete Buttigieg guy, though. How did you?
I am, yeah. So I won't hide that.
No, and that's fine. I mean, I said I'm a Bernie guy, and you're a Pete Buttigieg guy. And one of the biggest criticisms towards Pete Buttigieg, and even coming from myself, is that he and you acknowledged it on the last debate show that we did, was that he wasn't very sound on policy yet. I mean, not that he's going to be able to roll out any, in-depth policy when you're on stage with 9 other candidates, but how do you think
you're never going to be able to do it in the debate format?
No, I know, Dorf. Hold on, let me just finish my point here.
Sorry.
How did you think that he did, overall? Because he certainly was somebody that was near the top of the heap at the end of the night, rather than somebody that kind of got lost in the shuffle further down the line there. So what were your impressions of Mayor Pete that night?
No, yeah, I thought he definitely was, again, with Warren and Sanders, I think they were the top 2 of the night, obviously sticking together. I thought Mayor Pete had a good night as well. But again, he has great responses, and, he's eloquent and always very on point with everything he says and in every response and every answer, but he never really hits on his act. And now he's actually come out with quite a few policies. He's come out with his Marshall Plan. He's come out with now the gun plan right after this weekend, and he's starting to come out with stuff, but he never really hits on them and expands on them in those debates, and that's kind of his shortfall, I think, overall when it comes to really speaking on that kind of national level. He's great in interviews, and he always kind of references back to the plans he's come out with one-on-one, but whenever he's kind of under the gun there, he speaks well, but he just really doesn't hit those hammer home points like Sanders, Warren, Biden, even Booker does.
Is that because he's just too green? I
really don't think it's that. I think it's just that when he gets a question, he answers it. He doesn't expound back to something else.
He doesn't try and go with the.
He's
the
not.
pre-tested
He's not really
soundbite.
like a
He
politician that we've seen. Yeah, he kind of tries to actually respond. Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of what's so refreshing about him is
that's refreshing.
Like in the first debate. Absolutely. But like in the first debate, instead of going to the Marshall Plan that kind of he came out with about racial relations in the U.S. and expounding and how to fix those. When Beto went after him on that, he just responded honestly. He said he didn't do a good enough job. And, I mean, that's one of those things like we saw that helped catapult kind of Obama past the 2008 crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I don't think that I think that he had one of those nights I personally thought that certainly didn't hurt him in any sense. He did have that memorable one-liner, and I mean, generally speaking, he didn't do anything to hurt himself that night. I think Mayor Pete is still in a very, very good position for himself as this primary moves on, where obviously he's going to be in the next round of debates. He's going to be able, and maybe that's what he's doing as well. Maybe he's just kind of, treading water as much as he can. Not to say that that's a bad thing right now. Kind of working out his policy, and then once there's that bigger spotlight on himself when there's some other candidates gone, then that's where he could jump in and make a bigger impact with. And I know you said, Aaron, that he has come out with more policy, but bringing out his policy more and defending it when you're up against other candidates who are maybe trying to take it down. Staying on the centrist kind of train here. I'm looking at some other ones, whether it's Beto or Amy Klobuchar, who I think kind of just got lost in the shuffle. Beto especially that night, it didn't seem like he was... I thought that was a night that he really had to come out and kind of maybe not so much what John Delaney did, but maybe, try to create some more fireworks for himself. And he just didn't do it. He certainly got lost in the whole Medicare debate that was going on with Bernie and Elizabeth Warren against John Delaney and Tim Ryan. But you really didn't have one of those moments where Beto O'Rourke kind of stood out and had a memorable one-liner or was getting into the fray. It seemed like a moderator asked him a question, he answered it, and then that was it. Everybody moved on. And you really could pretty much have forgotten that Beto O'Rourke was on that night. Dorf, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, I guess I get to speak as an informed local here, although because I live in South Bend now. But
do you in Indiana? South Bend, Indiana?
Yeah, for a couple months now. Only a couple months. Actually, he was never, he is still technically the mayor of South Bend. However, the day he declared for president was the day I moved here. So,
Wow, that's
so.
That's
anyway.
I was actually asking about Beto. Were you even listening to what I was saying?
No, I was trying to read up on something Pete Buttigieg's background.
All right,
here.
then we'll go ahead. Okay, then we'll go ahead and go to Aaron. Then Aaron,
reset the question if you want to.
Aaron,
with Beto, I can't disagree with anything you said. I mean, for me, I know Beto's made it to the next debate. I think that debate's actually going to be in Texas here, so that's good for him probably. But I feel like, I don't know why he's in this. I just can't think of it. I mean, he's outmatched pretty much on whether on the centrist issue, he tells basically, well, if I'm the candidate, Texas is in play. I mean, that's kind of a weird argument considering you've lost Texas to Ted Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
And Ted Cruz isn't exactly likable by the center either.
Yeah, and by any means. And that's, I mean, I just don't know. Again, I mean, I know you brought up Klobuchar. I love Amy Klobuchar. I really can't say enough about how much I love that woman. But, I mean, yeah, with Beto, what are you doing? Just drop out and go for the Senate race.
You know what?
Oh, especially if you
drop out and go against Gardner. It just drives me crazy how full this candidate field is, and how vulnerable these Senate seats are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, does it feel like the 2016 Republican primary here, where you felt like only 10 people were only there so they could write a book one day about it? So it felt like to me.
I mean, a lot of that. I feel like a lot of that field, from that 16 Republican field, there are people that were there before, though. They were there in the, against Romney. They were there against McCain, and like, I get what you're saying, but also no, because it feels like a lot of these people are just first-time comers, and not that they shouldn't take their shot. They absolutely should. I mean, fucking look at what happened in 2008. Obama took a shot from polling 1% before the Iowa caucus, and he was the nominee. But like, it just feels like everyone's kind of looking at that as their shot.
I've got something.
It seems like Obama needs to step in here and say, "Sit the fuck down." Like kind of what Howard Dean did in 2008. What Howard Dean did in 2008, he lost his shot and he became like, I'm pretty sure he was DNC chair then. He started sitting people down and saying, "What are you doing? This is pointless. You're just literally embarrassing the party where you could be doing so much more good in other spots." And I mean, again, I can criticize Obama left and right, but this is something where he's still the leader of the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone would argue that. Like, he needs to sit these people down and go, "You don't have a fucking shot."
Well, I mean, if you specifically look at Beto, John Cornyn's incredibly vulnerable. Go after him.
Absolutely.
The only risk that you have is, congratulations, you were the congressman from one of Texas's like 50 million districts, and you're a one-time loser. I mean, but odds are still against him.
To Beto's credit, he did bring out a huge turnout in Texas.
Correct, and it was the most highly outside funded election in like the history of ever for the Senate. So I don't know how much if it's a crowded field again and specific people don't feel like Ted Cruz is. Oh God, don't even get me started about it. People of Alabama don't even want Roy Moore again. Well, anyway,
please let him run. Please God, let him run.
And I think that's they're doing everything the Republican Party in Alabama is doing everything they can to make him like die. But
bring him back on that horse.
Die politically.
I need more Doug Jones.
Yeah. But anywho, it's Beto, the only thing he risks as a relatively young man in a political career, is if he drops out and runs for Senate again in Texas and loses again, he's politically toast forever. And if he ever wants to do anything or stick around in politics, he's got to win his next one. And no one will fault him.
I think it's John Edwards.
Well, John, here's the thing. No one will fault him for not winning.
Before the whole
banging the mistress.
Yeah.
I mean, like John Edwards, like Beto has that charisma where I don't think if he loses another Senate race, he's done. That's all. I mean, like I could see him easily, and if Dems don't win 2024, he could easily go around.
Okay, well, it's the easy. Okay, so he runs again in 2024. Say Donald Trump wins again, he runs again in 2024. After not, he would have to run for Senate in 22. Or is it 20? No, Cornyn's up.
No, Cruz would be 2024 again. So
yeah,
he could easily run for another Congress seat. He could run for a Congress seat in 2022.
Yeah, fair enough. And But the easiest counter to that is this guy's a loser, and then if he would have to run for somebody else's seat, a different seat than he held in Congress before, then oh man, now he's a carpetbagger. So he could get back in Congress, but is he going to be politically weak for the rest of his career and never will amount to anything higher than that? Absolutely, and I don't think he's ready to settle for that yet.
All right.
I don't disagree with you logically, but I mean, we live in the world of Donald fucking Trump as the president of the United States, so
hey,
I mean, who the fuck knows anymore?
If this was the running for the office of the president, I would agree with you. However, essentially the way congressional elections work are entirely different, and they don't play by the same rules.
I don't agree though, because the guy who represents the UP for the U.S. Congress, he's a carpetbagger from fucking Alabama.
Oh yeah, and John McCain. I forget. John McCain wasn't from Arizona.
Absolutely, no, not at all. He moved there after he got out of the military, and fucking absolutely.
Yeah, set up shop.
I mean, like, I just. There's a reason it fucking works. Is all I'm saying. All I'm saying is Beto just has that charisma to do it.
Well, Mitt Romney moved to Utah for like the first time.
Yep, fucking Orton has to run for Senate. Absolutely, you're right. Yep. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, people don't really fucking care as long as you say the right thing and you have the right name.
Well,
or likely you're white, really.
Let's take a look at the bottom.
Sorry, Adam.
No, you're okay. Let's take a look at the bottom half of night one. It seems like the clock is running for the dropouts as far as Tim Ryan. Who else here?
Tim
Ryan, John Delaney. I don't know. Is it surprising at this point that these two guys are still in the race?
No, because it doesn't really. If their donors are still coming and it's not costing them anything out of pocket to stick around, it makes that book a couple extra chapters long, which means you can charge a couple of extra dollars for it. I swear that's the only reason Marianne Williamson's here. Tim Ryan, probably. John Hickenlooper, if he wanted to run some sort of independent down the middle.
Was Hickenlooper night one?
Yeah, Hickenlooper. No, he was night two.
No, he's night two.
No, you're right. He was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he's night one.
He was night one?
I'm mistaken.
Yeah, and the governor from Montana is Steve Bullock?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Like, dude, no one.
I actually really like him, too. That's the worst part.
And yeah, he's a Democrat who is winning in a rural state. So, I mean, there's something there. But at the same time, he's just boring.
It's the Jay Inslee effect, man. They're running for
him too. There you go.
Too, and they just, I mean, it's admirable, but again, it's going to get real interesting real quick.
It was one thing.
Next debate comes.
Who was the third guy? It was Bernie, Hillary, and who was the third guy again in 2016?
Lincoln Chafee.
It was the mayor of Baltimore.
Oh no, it's.
It was the guy from Baltimore. What was his name?
Yeah, that's how memorable he is. None of the three of us can come up with it. Anyway, there's something to be said for somebody just sticking around to keep everybody honest, but when you've got, 15, 20 people that are still hanging around after debate 2, come on.
All right, well, speaking of
O'Malley.
Yeah, Martin O'Malley.
Oh, Martin O'Malley. Yeah,
Martin O'Malley.
There you go.
Anyways, moving to night 2 though, you had the guys at the top. You had Kamala Harris, you had Cory Booker, you had and Joe Biden.
And listen to that bias, leaving the top Democrat nominee to the bottom of the list.
Who's that? What are you talking about?
Oh, are you
just getting Biden at the bottom there? You went Harris, Booker, Biden.
Well, I'm not a fan of either one of those three. So
Yang Gang 2020.
Hey, you left off Yang Gang, man.
Yang Gang 2020.
Well, that would be Dorf, not myself.
We're not doing MAGA here. We're doing math. I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's like, God, everybody already thinks you're a dork, and congratulations, you've just
We need to do the opposite of what Donald Trump is, an Asian man who likes math.
Okay, well let's go ahead and start with Andrew Yang then. Andrew Yang is obviously an interesting candidate. He is basically a one-issue candidate. But you know what? I think he's
done everything he possibly can to try and to negate that. However, anytime he gets any sort of microphone time, it's I want to give you $1,000. I want to give you $1,000. It's like, okay.
Oh, he's the opposite of Buttigieg. He goes fucking right back to UBI.
Okay, Andrew, we get it. I understand you've released policy positions on everything under the sun on your website, but nobody reads that shit.
You know what, though?
You have to take advantage of your soundbite time to tell people who you are besides $1,000 guy. Like, come on.
You know what, though? In all fairness,
that fight's garbage too, by the way.
In all fairness, though, when it comes to a guy like Andrew Yang, even when it comes to somebody like Marianne Williamson or Jay Inslee, kind of those one candidate or those one issue candidates, maybe aside from Marianne Williamson, who is interesting in and of herself. But I like having those candidates though on the stage because it kind of it offers a just a good perspective on those one single issues. Obviously the UBI thing is going to be an interesting thing for a lot of people out there, and to have somebody like Andrew Yang up on a national stage like that talking about it, even though I don't agree with it, I think it's something that's going to be interesting and something that candidates are going to have to in some sense address. Same thing with Jay Inslee. Not that climate change isn't a popular topic amongst Democrats, but still, you're going to get a much broader insight on it from somebody like Jay Inslee, more so than you would from a guy like Joe Biden.
I mean, are we with, like, it's not like the moderators of any of these debates aren't going to press them on it.
No,
what their plans will be.
No, they're not. But I mean, if you are sitting there, if you're hearing it from Jay Inslee as opposed to like I said, Joe Biden, I think Jay Inslee is much more in tune with climate change than Joe Biden is. So maybe you're going to be able to get a different answer out of Joe Biden than the regular run-of-the-mill one he would have given if it's just him and, Beto O'Rourke up there or Tulsi Gabbard up there. So, I don't know, that's...
And generally, I agree.
I mean that's how I look at it. I mean, they're much more interesting candidates than a Tim Ryan or a John Delaney are. I mean that's more so what I'm getting at when I'm talking about the Yangs and the Inslees and the Marianne Williamsons. But that's basically it.
I have a much harder time finding much less interesting candidates than Tim Ryan and Jim Delaney now.
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. I mean definitely. I mean you're not gonna find me disagreeing with that. But I think that there is some importance though with those candidates up there on stage. That's all. Dorf, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you up to this point in the election cycle. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely correct that there's important to have the hardcore single issue that speaks to your base candidate there. However, that's cute. It's time for it to be done. I'm personally
fucking August. We're still 14 months from the election.
Well, okay. If you're running against it, if you're running against an incumbent, you need to have a full fucking year to punch at him. And when you're sitting here infighting and you can't even thin it down from 20 over, it's more than a year. It's 16 months out, almost to the day. Until you got to start thinning this field, and maybe it's getting rid of, maybe you keep an Andrew Yang or a Marianne Williamson around, or one or two of them, but everybody else that's the bland guys you were talking about, like Tim Ryan and Bill de Blasio and
absolutely,
and Jay Inslee.
I just went on a rant about that. I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, it's time for them to go and thin the field a little bit, but unfortunately the most likely and easy candidates to go from like an ideological, let's call it a tactical perspective, should be the Yangs and the Insleys, not the Tim Ryans and the, Bill de Blasio's.
I know. I think we'll
it's
see that with the debate coming up. But again, I mean, that's where I said earlier. We need someone like we need Obama or actual DNC leadership to come in and sit these fuckers down, get them out of it. Well, I agree with you, absolutely.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you're mentioning Obama again, Aaron, because sitting there on night 2, it didn't seem like he was the most popular guy, considering the shots that a lot of these candidates were taking towards him that night. What did you think of that?
I mean, personally, again, I can criticize Obama for a lot of things he did during his presidency.
Sure.
But,
yeah, me too.
I mean, he still did a lot of good things, too. And especially with, 6 years of Republican-held Congress?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't... The thing is Obama is fucking popular among Democrats. Taking shots at him in a early debate is a really risky
He's still
thing to
popular
do.
with moderates.
I think the last poll I saw among Democrats, just among Democrats, he had a 95% approval rating. Taking shots at him, unless you land your fucking mark, and unless it's probably against Biden, who's, again, that was one of the things I love that Booker said. Booker said, I think, you can't tout Obama's successes and then not own his failures. That was a great point, and again, that's a valid criticism.
No, absolutely.
True.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, Joe Biden has plenty of ammo, or plenty of things you can go after him for. He's got a congressional record of, 40 years? Plus his, longer than the average voter will be alive. He's been in public office, and there's plenty to go against him, especially if you want to get...
Even beyond that, in the first, 2 weeks of when he announced, he was touting how he was working with fucking race baiters on the right. He's got plenty you can fucking go after him on.
You know what, too?
Don't do it with Obama.
And sorry...
Oh, and that's even before you get into the whole, the creepy Uncle Joe shit.
Which I think is stupid.
I mean, as much of that's kind of overblown.
Yeah, especially when you're. That's something that isn't going to work. It shouldn't work if you're running against Trump in a general election. But anyways.
Oh, well, the only thing is,
it shouldn't, because Trump has fucking 24 credible fucking sexual assault.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I was going to say though, is, as far as Joe Biden goes, I think something that he can do for himself, and this is, kind of how he has a similarity to Trump, is that I think he has trouble taking criticism for himself. He does have a long political career. There's no doubts about that. Something that he can do, though, is go up on that stage and own some of those mistakes. Go up there and say, yeah.
Own it and say, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I was wrong.
Or here's another option.
That's a lot of things Democrats can't do, is say, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I've changed my mind. Gabbard has the same problem. She can't own her. She used to be anti-LGBT, and she'll never own it. She says, oh, well, and she says, I've changed now, but she won't own that I was wrong then.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Dorf?
Well, and here's what happens when this isn't my term. I didn't coin this, but the Democratic primary process has turned into a wokeness purity spiral, and that which really, really plays into those who don't have longer records. Joe Biden will never win a battle to the most woke. However, wokeness isn't popular with the general electorate. That doesn't make it right, wrong, or otherwise. I mean, that's not a moral judgment. That's just math. Things that let's call it the woke brigade think are stuff that they want their candidates speaking to and pushing for and stuff like that will get them killed in the general. And so I understand why some of these candidates are really, really struggling with, I have to be just woke enough to get through the primary, but not so woke that I can't take it back in the general so I don't get my dick kicked in. That's the problem here. And yeah, Joe Biden's old record wasn't woke. Quite honestly, if you take the name off the resume, Barack Obama in 2008 would be arguably too moderate to be a Republican. Like, he would be so, he would be a moderate, not even too moderate to be a Republican. He would be a moderate Republican at this point. 2008 Obama,
no,
he was.
I disagree.
Hang on.
With that.
He wasn't at the time pro-LGBT either. He was
right.
Absolutely. He was against illegal immigration. He was, he
still. Took him, I think, 4 years to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, no, Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was in his second term. Absolutely.
And
realistically, there was the only reason
I changed my mind.
Well, and here's the only thing. Quite honestly, he may have personally held the belief that no problem with gays serving in the military. However, you could argue he was too much of a political coward to do it in his first term because he realized, you know what, that'll get me not reelected, because that's how unpopular that was at the time.
I don't disagree with you. I don't know if that would be his reasoning, but I don't disagree.
I'm not saying that it is either, but it is a possibility. I mean,
absolutely. The LGBT issue changed dramatically over
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
All right.
I absolutely don't disagree with that.
Well, at the same time, Let's
go back to Andrew fucking Yang, all right?
Yeah. Hey.
I'm sick of this fucking Yang gang shit, and I can't. I don't like him.
Hey, he's good for the memes, man. But what about Tulsi Bay?
So sick of this Yang gang shit.
No, I'm
Tulsi Gabbard. Goddamn.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Let's go back to these shit.
I'm glad you brought that up, though, Dorf. Tulsi Gabbard, because she got one of the biggest hits in on the night when she put the huge spotlight on Kamala Harris's Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor in California. And I thought that this was extremely important, especially after the way that Kamala Harris was essentially getting away with things after the first debates. I mean that criticism towards Joe Biden was very, very warranted. And I agree with it. That's something that certainly Joe Biden has to answer to. However, Kamala Harris has had plenty of transgressions of her own, and when it comes to her political career and her legal career through the years. And Tulsi Gabbard putting a huge spotlight on that in night 2 of the debates last week was something that definitely got under the skin of Kamala Harris. So you could certainly see it too. After the debate, she didn't do herself any favors because she sounded like a pretentious bitch. Hold on.
Damn. Calm down, Adam.
Saying that, oh well, basically Tulsi's a nobody and I'm Kamala Harris and I don't have to worry about her, which is basically kind of giving off the the feeling that it was Tulsi Gabbard that brought that up. So I really don't have to answer to something like that because she's an Assad apologist, yada 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 yada, when it's something that she definitely has to answer to, especially the way she tried to pull a fast one over the American public, over the American public's eyes when she rose her hand during that Medicare for All question during the first round of debates in Miami. I'm not a fan of Kamala Harris, if you couldn't tell at this point right now.
I don't think anyone could tell there, buddy.
No, but like I said, I give Tulsi Gabbard huge props for bringing that to light, though, because that is definitely something that Kamala Harris is going to have to answer to here on out.
And that's where, personally, the one thing Gabbard said that I agreed with was that Kamala Harris had no problem, and again, my whole problem with what Gabbard went after her on was she was criticizing her for doing her job upholding the laws of California. Like, it was her job. It's not like she decided what laws to enforce and what not to do. Those were the laws.
That is correct.
Yeah,
she was not a member of the California legislature.
Prosecutor. Yeah, exactly. There's prosecutorial discretion at times. And the one thing I thought Gabbard really hit on was saying, you had no problem raising your hand, laughing that you smoked weed, but, you had no problem putting other people away. Like, I get that. That was probably the one that landed, just because of the climate right now, where states are legalizing it and having no problem with it. I thought that landed. Like, going after her saying, oh, well, you hid it. Like, that all kind of was a little bit of just conspiracy nonsense that I don't think really deserves to be on that stage. But, I mean, like I said, I thought that was the one point she landed very well, and I can't discredit her for going after her like that, but, like, some of the stuff she was saying otherwise, it was a little too much for me. But, again, I know I'm not a big Kamala fan either, but, I mean, I do respect the job she's done as, a lawyer and as a prosecutor, and, I mean, that's just, I guess, a little bit of my own professional judgment.
Dorf, I know you're kind of a Tulsi fan. She's somebody that's kind of intrigued you in the past. What were your thoughts?
I told you at the beginning of the primary season that, gun to my head, you forced me to vote for one of these people, it would be her. That was several months ago at this point. The whole idea, it's more about Kamala Harris here. The legitimate criticism, well-landed verbal blow, looked I don't want to say looked presidential while doing it, but looked, you didn't look unhinged while landing the blow to Kamala Harris there. And for Kamala Harris to come out and essentially absolutely. And you know what? She's also still a young candidate here. So, I mean, her time is far from over on the national stage. But the response you could arguably say is, well, legitimate criticism, but I don't have to care because I'm the popular girl. Like, that's what it came across to me at, is like exactly how some high school drama would take out. Oh, I don't care because I'm more popular. Like, the whole.
Conversely, though, Gabbard really does have to answer for the Assad stuff. And I don't know if anyone caught it. She was on a couple networks afterwards. And
yeah, I was going to say.
She just lost it on MSNBC. The day after the debate or the day previous, but like.
Did you see her appearance on? Did you see her appearance on Chris Cuomo? With Chris Cuomo, I believe.
I did, yes, actually, yeah, because I do enjoy Cuomo. Yeah.
I think that was the best explanation in kind of one that put it to rest for me is, ultimately truth. I know, like, for example, Donald Trump gets a lot of shit for dealing with Kim Jong-un. However, if you are and you really want to make the world a better place, unfortunately, you're going to have to do business with some of the dirtiest, slimiest people on the planet. And I think that's kind of how not Kamala Harris.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, I knew I was going to get there. Tulsi. That's how Tulsi Gabbard explained it as I was doing, dealing with some of the scummiest people on the planet in service of my country, because I didn't want us to unnecessarily go to war there. And I think that's fair. She is the anti-war candidate for sure, at least the one that's most open about.
Oh, Marianne Williams, come on, buddy.
Well, okay, that's your hippie grandma. She'd love to throw a flower veil or
love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no.
But no, and you're absolutely right, and I get exactly what she was saying.
You know what? I was, in my capacity as a legislator, and I think she does something with foreign affairs too, doesn't she? Or military affairs.
I believe she sat on the military
affairs. I was doing what I could as my capacity as a legislator to keep us out of yet another endless war in the Middle East. And you know what? That involves, unfortunately doing grip and grins with some of the scummiest people on the planet. And yeah, it's not going to win me. It's going to people forever will be able to dog me for not condemning Bashar al-Assad. But at the same time, it was a smart move of diplomacy to, unfortunately, to have to deal with this guy. I mean, he's still the leader there, and if whoever becomes president will likely have to deal with this guy again.
No, it's.
Oh, and I don't disagree with you at all on that. My only thing is, again, though, she doesn't call him a war criminal, in which this guy's fucking murdered how many of his own people?
Yeah, but at the same time,
I mean, yeah.
look at the.
As a president, yes, you should have to deal with those people, but you're a congresswoman and you're running for president. You need to be able to call these people what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, look at it from a geopolitical tactics standpoint. The reason you see Donald Trump not being a dick, for lack of a better term, to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un is largely because he still wants to be able to get shit done with these two, and to put them on blast to win cheap domestic political points doesn't make that job easier. So
yeah, he's only a dick to Trudeau and fucking Merkel. Like, that's my only thing is.
Yeah,
we need to be able to fucking call it what it is. Assad is a murderous dictator.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't
fucking Duarte is a murderous dictator. Kim is a murderous dictator. Like, we need to be able to call these fuckers what they are. And
okay,
yes,
well, at the same time,
diplomatic, but
Aaron, that makes
you're
you
not
feel
the
good,
president. That's my point.
True. That may make everybody feel good, but at the same time, if you really want to do right by the North Korean people, unfortunately, that means you're going to have to, unless, of course, you're willing to invade, you're going to have to deal with the Kim dynasty. You're just going to have to do it. And that may mean
I prefer
giving
a fucking
him
feel wet team, but...
All right.
Okay, and unless, of course, you're willing.
No, I absolutely get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. Yes, diplomacy is good, but when you're a congresswoman and you're polling at fucking like 1.5%, like you got to be able to announce these.
Would you be more satisfied if she
thing?
Sorry, go ahead.
It's one thing if she's the actual like nominee. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Like,
would you be
how
more
much did the Republicans fucking lambast Obama for saying, I'd maybe sit down with Kim? Constantly. It's just a double standard of where we can't.
It's one of the inevitable political double standards of, the prime example is Republicans only care about deficits when they aren't in the Oval. So
no kidding.
But, notice, well, at the same time, one of the biggest, harpers on debt and deficits in the last 20 years, Rush Limbaugh a couple weeks ago finally came out and said it's all overrated. Nobody cares. Like why
Paul Ryan care? Before he fucking got his cash out.
Exactly. So, but if it wasn't a cash out thing, it's debts and deficits are only important to the party who isn't in power at the time in the executive branch. Like that's one of those double standards of how dare you talk to dictators? They're awful people, but at the same time, you want to be able to do it when you're in power, because that's the geopolitically smart thing for you to do. Not only as a president of the United States, we're looking out for the best interest of your country, but even if you want to be altruistic and say, hey, the situation in North Korea is fucked. I would like to do something without a war to fix that. Unfortunately, that's going to involve blowing up. Blowing some hot air up of the ass.
But I just mean more. I don't see the double standard when the past two Democratic presidents have left us smaller deficit and an actual,
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but those are big numbers, and most people don't understand understand how bad.
I understand Bush spent like $1 trillion on wars that wasn't about 9/11.
Let's start to wrap up this this first segment here, because I do want to get to what happened this past weekend real quick before we sign out for the night. But some of
on a high note,
some of the some of the middle of the road to the bottom end of these when it comes to these candidates, whether you're talking about Michael Bennett, Kirsten Gillibrand, Julian Castro, who had a good night or a good debate the first round, but then again, kind of
phenomenal night.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Nobody knows who he is.
He's VP pick, man.
Oh yeah, he will be somebody's VP. He will be somebody's VP because he's a Democrat from Texas who has executive branch experience.
I think he's the nominee's VP.
You think he's the? I mean, he's. I mean, he does.
Yeah, that's what I mean by that. Yeah, that's what I mean by that, Aaron. He will be if it's not Mayor Pete, I think it would be stupid not to have Julian Castro on the ticket this upcoming cycle.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, Hispanic guy.
For the first time tonight.
Yeah, from Texas. Yeah, I mean, I think he would definitely be a strong VP candidate without a doubt. Kirsten Gillibrand, again, she's another one. I don't know why she's still in it. Her especially. I don't know. It doesn't seem like she brings anything to the table that is noteworthy enough that we've seen some of these other candidates. I mean, even when you look at somebody like Beto O'Rourke, who I know we were talking about, you know, when it came to night one and kind of falling flat and not doing a whole lot, at least Beto has that thing where he can go and say, I took Ted Cruz to task in Texas. I have this. Kirsten Gillibrand, she's a senator from New York. You're not one
of the deepest blue states.
Yeah, Democrats aren't losing New York. You're not moving the needle one way or the other with Kirsten Gillibrand.
Political chip to cash in is I'm friends with Hillary, and unfortunately that chip isn't worth much right now.
No, it's not going to be worth much ever again.
Worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Oh, it may be worth a lot of money politically, in fundraising, and she'll have that seat until she dies, or doesn't want to have it anymore. But at the same time, is she going to be anything more than the junior senator from New York?
No.
I mean, probably. Schumer's got to die eventually.
Yeah.
How old is he?
I mean, she may end up being in somebody's cabinet or something like that, but I don't think she's ever going to get anywhere higher than that. I mean, she's not bringing enough to the table when it comes to, moving the needle, which.
No, and that's what we're going to see again. Like, the next debate is going to show actual field, and we're going to get an actual debate.
Yep, absolutely. And right now,
again, my problem is it's not going to be a 2-night debate, and it's probably going to be 7, maybe 8 candidates. And I wish if it was 8, they would split it into 2 nights, but I know they won't.
No.
And that's going to be the worst part.
Or hell, even do it like multiple rounds where you only have 4 people, like in the same night. You have 4 people on the stage for an hour, then you shuffle them, and then it's a different 4, the other 4, and then you split them up again and do another hour with 2 and 2 from each group, and then another hour with 2
Absolutely.
and 2.
I would love that. I mean, but it's again.
But again, are people going to watch 4 hours?
3 hours. I mean, CNN they were on about almost 3 hours on each night.
Hey, Aaron, what about if we do it
like... No, you're absolutely right, and that's going to be the worst part.
Aaron, what about if we do it like NHL All-Star style, where, and Dorf was kind of getting at that?
Fucking strap some skates on and hit each other.
No,
let's go.
You break it.
Bernie's going to fucking slash the shit out of everyone.
All right, though. Let's move on to the depressing portion of the show tonight, and that was the shootings that took place this past weekend, Saturday morning, and then early Sunday morning as well. The first one being in El Paso, where a gunman ended up killing 22, with 2 of those dying in the hospital. I believe less than or a little bit maybe over 24 hours after that. It was a hate crime. It was motivated by hate. The gunman did post his manifesto, if you will.
Was that confirmed?
I was hearing the police talk about. I was hearing the police talk about it today, and they wouldn't totally confirm it, but there's no denial that it's his.
And that was just kind of like, I think he was in court today, and
he was taken.
I was just kind of shocked that wasn't actually brought up, as a court.
They probably haven't been able to prove it without a reasonable doubt that it's his yet. They probably have a pretty solid inkling, but at the same time, you don't want to blow your chance to admit it into evidence. You
And
don't
right.
you don't
I
need
absolutely
it.
agree.
You don't need it to indict him for a crime. So don't blow your chance to use it.
The thing is they've said that the El Paso shooter, he's been absolutely cooperative.
Yeah.
I mean, with police. And so, like, I'm just kind of shocked that, the judge didn't just straight out ask him if that was, whether you call it a manifesto or a rant or, post, whatever you want to call it. But I was just kind of shocked that was never really confirmed or denied, just in front of the judge when, obviously, and greatly, he denied him complete bail and everything.
And then, like I was saying, not long after that, in the early morning hours of Sunday, 24-year-old went and killed 9 people on the streets of Dayton. Actually, in I believe it was what they called the Oregon District, which was a bar district within that city. Of those 9 victims, not including the shooter himself, who ended up being gunned down by police. One of those victims was his own 22-year-old sister. There's much more coming out about the shooter in El Paso. The information coming out about the shooter in Dayton is not coming out as fast, but we have learned more about him. It sounds like he was
Toledo, if you ask the president.
Yeah, Toledo, if you ask the presidents where this took place. But it sounds like this guy in Dayton was on the left side of the political spectrum here. But unlike the shooter in El Paso, it doesn't seem like what he did in Dayton was politically motivated. It certainly sounds like this guy had
Is this suicide by cop? Is that your best?
I mean, I don't want to say that. It sounds like this guy had far greater mental issues than.
Well, there was an interview on NBC tonight where they interviewed. I don't know if it was a girlfriend, but it was someone he.
Oh, it's his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I think it was his ex-girlfriend.
Something,
She wrote a big long Medium post about the relationship too.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, where she said it wasn't. It was definitely a mental issue thing, and like the first date they were on, he showed her like a video of a mass shooting, but I mean that one is definitely, I think, the more kind of haunting of the two to me, just because, like, why would he target his sister? And
Yeah.
I mean, like, and again though, I mean that was also the one where thank Christ, the police were right there, and I mean.
Response time was
tragic
2
as
minutes.
it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was under. I think they said like 30 seconds. The police took him down.
Yeah.
And I mean that's also the horrifying thing is where he killed 9 people, injured 20 in that 30 seconds. But
Yeah.
that one's just that's just such a frightening and just weird horror story compared to the other one.
It is very weird, Aaron, considering that. I mean, like I didn't get a chance to look at his Twitter page or his or a Facebook page before it was ultimately taken down by Facebook and Twitter. I was able to look at the El Paso shooters Twitter page before it was taken down. And there wasn't a whole lot on that one. I mean, there was a couple of Donald Trump things. There was an illegal immigration thing on there, and that was pretty much it. From some of the reports on the Dayton shooter, I mean, they're saying that he was this leftist, and he. What was the other thing that was on there? Like he supposedly posted something about the El Paso shooting, condemning it after it happened, but then he goes and he obviously goes and kills 9 people in Dayton, which if you do that, I mean, doesn't that just scream to you a guy with some pretty serious mental issues? I mean,
the thing to me was, he modified an assault weapon whether or not you want to call it that, the nomenclature, whatever. He modified a weapon and with a 100-round drum.
Yeah.
That's not to me an instant. Oh, I'm gonna just do this on a whim.
Mm-hmm.
That's a planned thing where plenty of people have guns and plenty of people enjoy guns. I know plenty of them myself, but to have not only that weapon with you,
mm-hmm.
but also a 100-round, completely filled drum of ammunition is that to me is not a that was. There's no way it wasn't planned.
Yeah, it's not like picking up a handgun and a couple of magazines, or a rifle and again a magazine or two.
Did he have body armor? I know the
he did.
Paso
Yes,
one did.
Yes, he did. Yeah, they did say.
Yeah, there's no way that wasn't planned. And again, those cops fucking. I mean, kudos to them, man.
I don't think the El Paso shooter had body armor. I don't think he did. He have body armor?
Body armor, hearing protection.
I know he had ear protection, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Because just so like he was wearing a black T-shirt and that was it, and it didn't seem like he had body armor. I may be wrong though, but obviously this, both of these shootings bring up the, they once again bring up the gun debate. They bring up the mental health debate. And in the El Paso shooting, they bring up the debate on racism, considering that the manifesto,
white
nationalism, the alleged manifesto for that gunman repeated a lot of the same language that Donald Trump was mentioning.
He made sure to say, "I felt this before Donald Trump ran for president."
What was that?
If you read his manifesto, he made sure to say that these feelings existed well before Donald Trump was a political figure.
The problem with that, though, is that that's fine. I'm sure that he did. I'm sure that he did have these feelings before Donald Trump was in office. I don't disagree with that at all. The problem, though, is when you have Donald Trump ascending to, the arguably the most powerful office in the entire world, he gives
and endorsing it.
Yeah, he gives that type of language when you go and you say invaders, and when you call it an infestation. I've said it before. You give it a sick legitimacy, and these people take it. My commander-in-chief is saying that. So if he's saying that, then you know what? I better go and act on it. Because if he's saying it, then it's something that needs to be addressed, and I'm going to address it the only way that I know how. Not to mention, there was that video that came out from May when, he was sitting there, rallying on about invaders and infestations of Hispanic people. And when one person in the crowd says, when Donald Trump was asking, how do we take care of this? Somebody in the crowd says, shoot him. And Donald Trump didn't do anything. The only thing that he did was, kind of laugh it off.
In the panhandle.
Yeah, and say, you can only get away with that in the panhandle. Now, that's not something that, that's not how you take care of that. That's not how you address that situation. The only thing that does to these psychopath white supremacists out there is say, the president is just laughing that off. That's not something the president is going to take seriously. That's something that, if I do it, I am justified in doing it because the president has legitimized it. And that
Adam, you're absolutely right. But the thing is, we've already seen this. We just saw, I think it was either yesterday or today, the MAGA bomber. He just got 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's right, where this is a mental health issue. But the problem is we have someone who is president of the United States egging these people on who have fucking mental issues. Mm-hmm. And The rhetoric doesn't help at all. And the worst part is, he won't even fucking say it's wrong.
No, he won't.
He'll say, "Oh, hate has no place in this country." Yeah, that's not fucking shit when you're telling people that they don't belong here and they should go back to where they came from.
No. And you know what, Aaron? I want to hear the guy say it on his own. I don't want to hear Donald Trump, saying it out of reaction and reading it off of a fucking teleprompter. If he's reading it off a teleprompter, that's something that he's essentially being forced to say. He's not. I mean, what happened? What happened when he did say something like this, or when he did address it on his own without a teleprompter? He was the one that went off and said, "Oh well, there's bad people on both sides." He still wasn't addressing the white supremacy issue head on and just condoning it for what it is. He was trying to play both sides because he didn't want to alienate his base. He didn't want to alienate the racists and the white supremacists out there that he does get a vote from. And again, I mean, is this going to be the last time that we see something like this happen? No, it's not. And you know what? Something else that I wouldn't be surprised that happens is if you have somebody on the left who, can't take it anymore and goes and takes matters into their own hands. And you kind of saw it already when that one guy started going and throwing...
trying to firebomb the ICE facility in Seattle?
He started trying to firebomb the ICE facility.
Right, beyond that, we saw it when that guy shut up the congressional baseball game.
Yeah.
I mean, there is problems on both sides. But the fact is one side says, "Oh, it's all mental problems. It's not the gun. The gun doesn't fire the bullets." Problem is that side's not fucking funding mental health facilities and health care. And so one side's trying to actually fucking solve the thing that are killing people, and the other side's saying, "Oh, well, it's a people problem. That's what we got to deal with." And then they don't do anything about it.
Well, the problem that I have...
They try to fucking defund it, and only John McCain fucking does it, and he gets fucking vilified by his entire goddamn party.
Well,
here, hang on.
Go ahead,
let me go on that. So let's just address the real politique of this. Mm-hmm. If you are... The easiest way as a right-of-center political office holder to get primaried successfully is give an inch on guns, regardless of your actual true personal feelings. The political discourse surrounding guns is so toxic that there is no assuming the good intentions of others in this debate, because you know what, the Second Amendment is a thing. We can argue about the interpretation of it until the cows come home. I'm sure nobody in this group will be able to contribute an original thought to that, because that's
yeah, but no one ever actually fucking recognizes the second half of that amendment.
Yeah, absolutely.
B,
that's part
90% of fucking Americans support background checks, and the fucking Republicans in Congress won't do anything about it.
Okay.
So don't tell me centrists are the issue when 90% of all Americans support actual fucking reform.
That's not what I said, though, Aaron.
It's not. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I apologize. I'm on it now.
No, it's and here's the thing: the two background check proposals that have been tabled in the House and not made it through the Senate wouldn't have done anything.
They won't be floored by the Senate.
Yeah, they won't even be absolutely. That's welcome to
fucking traitor of this country.
Hey, I'm not willing to go.
You don't do your fucking job. You are elected to uphold the Constitution. In my mind, upholding the Constitution is, as senator, you fucking vote on bills. You don't do that? No, I'm not even going to Garland. That's another fucking issue.
I was going to say, that's
he's interpreting the Constitution
Correct.
against all fucking Americans, and
Okay,
no one else gets to decide.
Hang on. There's a mechanism for that.
Sure,
Vote him
I'm
out.
sorry. I'll let you go.
No, there's a mechanism to address that. Vote him out. If you don't like it, vote him out. Vote him out personally, or make him the minority leader. If you don't like it, that's
believe me, I
that's the
fucking
mechanism.
absolutely agree with you. And
The same thing. The same thing with the Second
Amendment.
Amendment. The same thing with the Second Amendment. The way it's been interpreted by the Supreme Court and has yet to be overturned. That jurisprudence has yet to be overturned. Is the second part of Amendment 2 is essentially separate. It isn't part of the way things are interpreted, which means everybody gets guns. If you don't like it, there is a mechanism there's 2 mechanisms. There's 3 mechanisms to take care of that. Passes constitutional amendment through Congress.
I told Adam and Josh, we'll never see another constitutional amendment.
No, it's because it's too easy to...
Never in our lifetimes.
No, we never will, because it's too easy to pass effectively a constitutional amendment just via the regular order of passing laws and or executive order, that there's no need to go through all the hassle. Because that ground was given up constitutionally, decades and generations ago. So, you're never going to get it back. So, you will never see another constitutional amendment in our lifetime. You're correct there. But if you don't like it, there is also, if you can't get it through the traditional way by going through Congress, there is the conventions of the states, where if you get 37 states out of 50 agree to hold a constitutional convention, they, at that constitutional convention, with I believe, I forget what the percentage of votes required within that constitutional convention, can pass a constitutional amendment.
Simple majority.
Is it simple majority?
Problem is how many
third.
more mass shootings do we have to go through? We've got Colorado that's probably there, Nevada,
Yep. True.
probably now Florida,
Mm-hmm.
definitely Connecticut. I mean, I don't want to go through all my fingers, man.
This is going to sound terrible, but I hate to wash it up to the cost of doing business, but that is, a freedom that most people hold dear, to the right to own, whether it's the whole misguided, that fact that you'll be able to take down the government with an assault rifle when they have nukes, whatever.
Fucking drones.
But that too, we've had that show on Politics of the Empire. We've done that show. I thought, and again though, it's just we're the only fucking country that's this way, and it just fucking kills me, man. That's all. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Well, I absolutely agree. Here's the thing, Aaron. If I know you haven't done this specifically, and Adam, I know you haven't done this either. But if so much of the modern political discourse is focused around, well, Donald Trump, parallel actions of Nazi Germany. Well, here's another thing.
He said, take the guns and let the courts sort it out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on.
I'm sorry. I'm worked up. I'm sorry. It's your floor.
Simple pattern recognition says you're probably not wrong. Hitler was a vegetarian, yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. But the other murderous regimes of the 19th century, some of the proposals specifically around guns of the Cambodians, God, why am I forgetting it now? Fuck. Okay.
I'm gonna help you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Cambodia is the best example of this. The first thing that Pol Pot did when he came to power is he repossessed all the weapons, which made the people defenseless when he started rolling around and killing them, all the political dissidents. Seizures of publicly held firearms follow that same pattern. So if we want to play that game of, evil bad people did something similar to me, to my political opponent, there's plenty of that to go around. That's my only point in that regard.
You know what, you guys, I'm going to... Dorf, you especially have known how I've kind of morphed politically over these past several months.
It's been a lot longer process than that, sir.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I'm sure Dorf's going to roll his eyes. This is prototypical problems within capitalism.
Oh, God.
And do nothing top-down leadership. And I'll tell you why. Obviously, this has, and you know what? When you break it down, everything that we were talking about in this segment right now, whether it's guns, whether it's mental health, and I hate to say it, whether it's racism, bigotry, and white supremacy, nothing is going to get changed. Now, I wrote something that I posted on theempiremedia.com. Anybody can go back and read it if they want, and I'm basically echoing everything that I talked about in that article. And what we have now, and the reason why nothing is going to get done is because of money and power and money. When it comes to, let's just start off with mental health. Nothing's going to get done because candidates, whether you're on the right or whether you're on the left, it's more so on the right than it is on the left, but Democrats are guilty of this too. People are never going to have adequate access, real adequate, affordable access to health care because candidates are bought and sold by big pharma and the private insurance companies. If you don't believe me, look at the only three candidates.
Oh, I do.
Look at the only three candidates that raised their hand on the debate stage over the course of the past several weeks. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Bill de Blasio. I'm not even counting Kamala Harris. They were the only ones that supported Medicare for all. That's it. And only two of those three have a legitimate shot at winning the Democratic primary. The rest of them are all people who are in favor of keeping private insurance around. Why? Because you have to figure that private insurance companies are going to have their hands and their money into these political elections, much like the NRA does on the other side of the ticket here when it comes to the Republicans. And while we're on that too, nobody on the right-hand side of things are going to do anything about gun control because the way the NRA has such a huge stranglehold on the gun lobby in this country. You look at some of the biggest takers of NRA money, whether it's Marco Rubio, whether it's Ted Cruz, whether it's Mitch McConnell, are any of those guys going to do anything when it comes to talking about gun
Even if
control?
they didn't take NRA money, Adam, they wouldn't do anything about it because it's unpopular with their core supporters.
Okay, which goes to my last point here, which kind of works into the whole white supremacy thing. They're not going to do anything about it because they want to hold on to their power. Same thing with the white supremacy, like I was saying. Candidates aren't, Donald Trump in particular, isn't going to go and take that on like he should because he doesn't want to alienate parts of his base. And who knows how far, who knows how much the Republican Party is morphed now because of that. Hell, we've already seen it with Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz. I mean, Donald Trump went out there and insulted Ted Cruz's wife. Now Ted Cruz walks around Washington carrying around Donald Trump's jockstrap.
Call him the fucking Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, and who knows? Like I said, who knows how much the Republican Party is now gone because of somebody like Donald Trump. They're not going to take that issue on like they should because of it. They want to hold on to power, like Lindsey Graham has already displayed, just so they can keep their Senate seats, just so they can keep their House seats, and nothing's going to be done about it. Nothing serious is going to be done about it. And what are we hearing now?
And Adam?
Go ahead.
Adam, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, especially, like a lot of the Republicans just wanting to keep their power. But again, no. I don't know why you're buying into their talking point, and I'm going to go Bernie here. I don't know why you're buying into their this is a mental health thing and combining it with this is a fucking gun problem.
Well, Aaron, I'm not so much saying that it's a mental health thing. I guess kind of what I'm getting at with that is I think it is a little bit of a mental health thing. The problem though is nobody's
healthcare isn't available. I get what you're saying. I do.
That's exactly it right there. But go ahead.
It's not that it's not available; it's not accessible.
But the problem is,
yes, fair enough.
The problem is again, I'm going back to 90% of Americans support gun reform on a federal level, whether it's background checks, whether it's going back to the Clinton era assault weapons ban. Like, the thing is, the problem is Republicans. They don't want to do it. It doesn't matter if it's the Second Amendment. It doesn't matter if it's their constituents. They just won't do it. It doesn't matter if it's the NRA. The problem is they won't at all discuss the issue. And the thing is every time it happens in their state or their district, it's lip service, and it's fucking the problem is, just like Dorf said, their fucking constituents aren't voting them out. That's the problem we have to deal with. And
the one thing that would
we're almost looping back. We're looping back to the fucking debate thing again, where, again, Hickenlooper, O'Rourke, get the fuck out of here and run for Senate. Take the Senate back and fucking fuck it. The Republicans already done it. McConnell's already done it. He doesn't give a shit about the fucking filibuster rule. Fucking make it a 51 majority and fucking pass laws.
Hey, you can thank Harry Reid for that.
Fucking make them do it. I mean, yeah, you absolutely can. But again, it comes down to where, oh, well, we can't vote anything out. Fucking how many judges have been passed now? Again, yeah, you can blame Harry Reid for it. But the fact is that's done. And we now have to play by those rules. And again, it just, like I said, it rolls back to debates for me where we need to fucking just play dirty anymore.
Well, and Aaron, and you're not from a tactical standpoint, you're not wrong here. The problem is,
from a just political philosophy point, I'm not wrong because that's the situation we're in.
Yeah, fair.
Like, I'm an idealist, dude.
Well,
I'm a fucking idealist at all.
This is what a lot of people struggle with, especially those who would classify themselves as politicos. They are idealists, whether it's the my biggest criticism of libertarians, and I know Josh hates this, is it's the most easy moral philosophy that you could ever uphold. It's a very simpleton philosophy because you can hand wring everything away but my big government here, and you never have to actually put on your adult pants and try and attack and accomplish something, because you can always just say, but my big government, and just leave people alone, yada yada yada. The same criticism.
They can never explain how we pay for roads.
No, you can't, or common defense for that matter. At the same time, you could lob the same criticism at the extreme ideological left, and Adam, I'm going to go at the more communistic people here. It's a very easy scapegoat where you can just say this wouldn't happen in communism, but lack a real transparent roadmap of how to get to where you want to go, and how exactly provably and trackably those things wouldn't happen if you got your way.
Bernie Sanders said exactly how it happens, and he's absolutely right. When you get enough people wanting it, when you get enough people on the streets, when you get enough people wanting it, that's the only way it's going to happen. Because if I
love that idea, Adam, but Dorf's right. You're absolutely right. I mean, at this point, do we really believe that the majority of Americans agree with Mitch McConnell?
No, and that's
look at the after the 2018 election, that fucking landslide for Democrats, and we're literally just roadblocked by one fucking person. I mean, No,
It's on. It's not.
we
It's
can't
not
play
necessarily
that
one
way
of
anymore.
But that's what I'm saying though is
the rules of the game, Aaron.
You can't leave it up. You
And
can't
that's what
leave
I'm
it
saying.
up to these.
The rules of the game. It's not about the majority of people anymore. It's about fucking getting the people where you
It
need
never
to be.
has been.
As Mitch McConnell has done. Fucking
never
put the
has
judges in
been.
again. And you're right. And that's what I'm saying though. Is like that's the problem Democrats are having right now. Is
And
they need to
here's the
just
thing.
fucking
It's never.
nut up and.
It was designed to be that way. And you can.
I don't know about that, my brother.
Absolutely was. It was absolutely designed to be.
Do you
that.
really think the founding fathers thought that
Wanted a
one
republic
person
and not
in
a
the
true
Senate,
democracy? Yes, absolutely.
that the founding fathers believed one person in the Senate would decide on what bills would be voted on by 100 senators? It's 100% Mitch McConnell.
It's
Mitch McConnell.
No, that's
Mitch
the
McConnell
rules. That's the rules of parliamentary procedure, man. The majority leader of either house
By his
has to pick
interpretation.
what's tabled.
You think the founding fathers thought that Mitch McConnell, one senator,
because of
would
course not.
decide if a Supreme Court justice would be actually allowed to vote? You can't actually tell me you believe that.
The logic. I can't say that they had thought that out loud.
I mean,
but
those
it is a logical
technically, yes,
consequence
those
of
are the
their
rules,
actions.
but no way did they actually have that in their vision.
I think they had more grandiose and more traditional English.
I think they had much more grandiose ideas than where we are right now.
It's not grandiose ideas, but more of the. This is the United States judicial system is kind of left over. It has some bad leftover traditions from the English judicial system. They thought it was going to be more of the learned aristocracy, and that was going to be their representation in this sort of thing, where the law is intentionally complex and confusing on purpose.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think they definitely were influenced by Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, but again, I don't think that Thomas Jefferson and fucking Andrew Jackson and George Washington were sitting there going, we'll have one senator who can hold up a Supreme Court nomination.
Aaron, I disagree with your characterization that it's just one. The majority leader is acting in the interest of his party, and if they didn't like it,
which is not in the interest of the fucking country.
It's for him. That's the rules of the game, man.
But
this is parliamentary
the rules
procedure.
he's interpreting. That's the rules that he's interpreting. It's not the rules as written. It's the rules that the majority leader, as you're right, they are that way. But it's as he's interpreting them and not exactly how, again, I believe our founders would have envisioned our democracy and a republic unfolding. Personally.
Man, we're supposed to have this debate.
We can agree to disagree on that completely.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes. Did they explicitly lay out exactly that this is a logical consequence? No. However, it's inferred that the way they set things up and the way that things were organized, that this is a acceptable outcome to them. That I would be willing to have that. That if I had to characterize my position, that would be it.
And that's a great one. And I mean, like, I agree with, generally I agree with the right on interpreting the Constitution as it is written. And for me, I mean, the rules on impeachment are pretty fucking clear. So, I mean, I fucking hate Pelosi for what she's doing, but that's a completely different argument.
I'm still sticking with my capitalism is the problem, which yeah.
What did Churchill said? Capitalism is the worst fucking thing we have, but it's the only thing we have.
Well, and he was also. I don't think that was. He was democracy. Biggest argument is democracy is 5 minutes of the average voter, it's democracy is the worst system except all the others. Those are
capitalism runs hand in hand.
God, Churchill was a fucking prick too.
Hey, Churchill was a man.
Won the war.
Yeah, he did.
Well, Chamberlain was a bitch.
Hey, you know what? When it comes to Churchill,
so it's fucking Wayne Gretzky. We're just shouting out random sports people.
Anyways,
we're fucking way off the rails here. We're on like gun rights.
Yeah.
Hey, which turned into a constitutional debate, which turned into constitutional process.
Hey,
we didn't just go off on this wasn't random tangent.
wonderful.
This was well in line.
This was supposed to happen. This was supposed to happen with. This was supposed to happen with Josh, though, and it could still happen.
I'll go off with Josh on the Constitution all day.
But Josh is going to be.
It's not presidential history.
Yeah, Josh will be much more libertarian about it than obviously Dorf is. So I don't know.
I'm gonna see him seething watching this right now.
Oh, I guarantee I bet you he's listening right now, and like there's steam coming out of his ears,
rocking back and forth, like biting a knuckle.
I don't know. I'm obviously.
Capitalism sucks. Let's go somewhere else.
Hey, preaching to the choir on that one. I'm gonna start to wrap things up though, because we've been going on for almost about 2 hours now. But Aaron, when's the next round of debates to kind of put a bow on these two topics here? It's in mid-September, right?
Yeah, it's coming up in September. I believe it's in Texas, and
I think it's in
the
Houston.
rules are a lot stricter now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. Like, I'm trusting you on that, but yeah, the rules are a lot stricter. That's the nice thing. Again, like Dorf said earlier, I think only 6 or 7 people have qualified right now.
Mm-hmm. And
Yang Gang isn't one of them, and I'm disappointed.
Well, he's halfway there.
Thank God.
He's halfway there.
Thank
he has
God
one
him
of
and Marianne are gone.
He has one of the requirements, but the other one isn't. I can't remember if it's the money or the donors or what, but he's halfway there right now.
It's polls.
It's poll. Yeah.
Fucking
It's
billionaire,
polls.
man.
I do like what you guys.
I'll give Yang this. He actually has put his money where his mouth was on UBI. He's given, I think it's like 2 donor trials where he's like, and I think Iowa and New Hampshire, he's given like one family $1,000 a month.
Yeah, something like that. But anyways, as far as the shootings, obviously it's horrible. Not going to be the last time that we see something like that happen too. I mean, unfortunately.
That's I can plug Pete. Hold on. Mayor Pete, I was part of the first generation that saw routine school shootings. We did not produce a second. We cannot allow a third.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in Columbine.
Is that one of his lines?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
All right.
I remember when Columbine happened. I was Dorf, you were what, in elementary school when that happened?
What? I don't even remember it happening. What year was it?
98.
It would have been 7.
1998.
Yeah.
I specifically remember. I lived there.
Yeah, you lived. I remember they actually canceled an Avalanche game when that happened. I think they're in the playoffs. I want to say that they were playing the Sharks. That would have been in the first round, and I think they canceled the game that night. But yeah, I think I was in 10th grade, I believe. And yeah.
I was in 8th grade, and I was held at my middle school until 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, I was already home. When it happened. But obviously
I was 7 and didn't know what it was.
Yeah, that was the I don't know, the first big of the modern mass shootings in the United States. And even when you look back on that now, I mean, some of the ones that have happened since then, whether it's Newtown, Las Vegas, Parkland, it's just not up there. I think it's knocked out of the top 10 in terms of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history.
Can we at least all agree on this in closing?
What's that?
None of this has to do with video games.
No.
Or,
oh my God,
as some people have tried to say, this metal music
Who the
either.
fuck said?
No.
Trump said it, and I think fucking Mark Meadows.
No, it was the
Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy tried to
minority leader in the House.
Yeah, he tried to. Yeah, he tried to.
Even Hillary Clinton came out and said it's not fucking video games, and she preached that after Columbine.
Yeah, and that was the big thing after Columbine too, was video games and music. And
that shit has been studied to death, and there is no causal link between music of any kind.
Who's that lawyer? Do you guys remember that lawyer, Jack something after Columbine. That was a big thing. He was trying to do the video game industry for that.
I don't remember that. No. Do you? Remember
I know
that?
who you're. I know who you're talking about. I can't think of the name though.
Jack something. Yeah, he's a.
Oh God.
It don't matter. It's regardless. Adam, I'm sorry.
No, it's just it
Yeah,
is. I mean, and it's something that has been beaten to death. Whether especially the music thing. I mean, it's something that that Tipper Gore was trying to push back in the day. Back in the early '90s as well, when they started putting the parental advisory stickers on CDs and trying to say that music was corrupting the youth, and even with bands like Marilyn Manson
John
too.
Thompson.
After the Columbine thing.
John Thompson's the attorney you're thinking of. Jack Thompson, yeah.
Yeah, it's just all lame, and it's avoiding the real issues here, with these shootings, and yeah, I mean, crazy.
I get my last one. I'm gonna say, I'm so fucking tired of hearing this is gonna be the last one.
Yeah, and it's not.
Because it's not anymore. It's same as Thought and Prayers anymore. Every time something like this happens,
where are you hearing
this is the
that?
last time.
I don't think I've
From
ever
any
heard
of the
that.
fucking victims. If you listen to any of the interviews of the victims, they say, this will be the last time. This is it. We're going to change it now. This is going to be the last time.
Okay.
And it's just, I mean, think what you will about the Parkland kids, but, I thought maybe that would do something, but it really has come down to fucking elementary school kids were murdered in a fucking school, and we didn't do shit.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna change, man. This is just us now. This is life, and as much as I want to be hopeful, I'm not anymore. So that's my final.
Okay.
Say.
Dorf, any parting words?
No, it's just the video games and music thing. I think that's
the
me.
problem. Yeah.
No. Yes. The Jack Thompson on you here. That hippity hops is corrupting the youths.
Hey, you know what? If there's all of a sudden like an epidemic of people paying hookers, then hitting them over the head with a bat and stealing the money bag, then maybe I can kind of go with the video games. But
this is Grand Theft Auto's
Rocky.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any of that. I'm not seeing any of that happen right now. But anyways, good show tonight, you guys. It got a little intense there for some of it, but hey, you know what?
Good natured and love it.
That's
love it. Great debate, Dorf.
that's politics sometimes.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Anyways, though, we'll be back again next week, same time, or not same time, actually. We're going to be on at 9 o'clock next week for the Xcast. Josh should be back then. Aaron, I'm sure we'll have you again on sometimes. Definitely probably for the next round of debate talk. Definitely. And then
hopefully not until then.
yeah. And then Dorf, we'll be back on again next week for Politics of the Empire at 8 o'clock, right?
That's the plan. Or 8-ish whenever we get going.
Yep, 8-ish.
we always say 8, and it's usually closer to 8:30.
Yep, and we will be and I will be schooling Dorf on anarchism. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. So for Aaron, Dorf, Josh at home, I am Adam saying bye for now, everybody.